Imagine a government secretly selling weapons to its sworn enemy, then using the profits to fund a rebel army in another country, all while breaking its own laws. This isn't a spy movie plot. It's the real story of the Iran-Contra Affair, a scandal that rocked American politics in the 1980s. The Reagan administration, while publicly condemning Iran as a terrorist state, was secretly authorizing arms shipments to them. The goal? Solve two foreign policy crises at once, but through deception and illegal actions. When the truth emerged, Americans were left questioning who was really in charge and whether the law meant anything to those in power. The Iran-Contra Affair wasn't just a political blunder, it was a constitutional crisis that forced the nation to confront the limits of presidential power. This is the story of how secret deals and hidden agendas nearly unraveled American democracy. At the center of the storm was President Ronald Reagan, a leader whose charisma and vision inspired millions of Americans. Yet behind the scenes, his administration orchestrated a series of secret deals that would shake the nation's trust in its leaders. Reagan claimed ignorance about the diversion of funds, insisting he was unaware of the details. But the scandal unfolded on his watch, forever tarnishing his legacy and raising doubts about his leadership. The operation was run by a tight circle within the National Security Council, led by the ambitious and resourceful Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. North became the public face of the affair, organizing clandestine arms shipments and managing a complex secret financial network that spanned continents. Above him, National Security Advisor John Poindexter approved the diversion of funds, later claiming he kept Reagan in the dark to protect the president from political fallout. CIA Director William Casey, a master of covert operations, pushed aggressively for supporting the Contras in Nicaragua, while Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger strongly opposed the arms sales to Iran, but was ultimately overruled by the inner circle. This small group bypassed Congress and even top cabinet members, running a shadow foreign policy from the shadows of government hallways. Their actions raised troubling questions. Who really controls U.S. foreign policy, and how much power should be concentrated in so few hands? And what happens when officials decide they're above the law, operating without oversight or accountability? The Iran-Contra Affair exposed the dangers of unchecked power at the highest levels, revealing just how fragile democratic safeguards can be. It was a secret government within the government, operating far from public scrutiny and accountability. The consequences of these actions would be felt for years to come, as Americans grappled with the fallout and demanded answers. The stage was set for a national reckoning, and the search for truth was only just beginning. The Iran-Contra Affair began with two crises: American hostages held by Hezbollah in Lebanon and a leftist government in Nicaragua the U.S. wanted to overthrow. Reagan's team desperately wanted to free the hostages and stop the spread of communism in Central America. Congress, however, banned funding for the Nicaraguan Contras, fearing another Vietnam. So, officials devised a secret plan: sell U.S. weapons to Iran, hoping Iranian influence would free the hostages. Then, use the profits from those sales to fund the Contras, illegally bypassing Congress. This covert operation was a direct violation of U.S. law and democratic principles. The plan was risky, secretive, and ultimately disastrous. It blurred the lines between diplomacy, war, and crime. The administration gambled everything on secrecy. But secrets rarely stay hidden forever. Congress passed the Boland Amendment to stop U.S. support for the Contras, fearing another secret war. The law banned any government agency from funding the Nicaraguan rebels. Reagan's team saw this as an obstacle, not a boundary. They argued that using profits from arms sales rather than appropriated funds created a loophole. Legal experts disagreed. The law was meant to block all support, no matter the source. By funneling money from Iran to the Contras, officials knowingly broke federal law and challenged Congress's constitutional authority. This set up a showdown between the executive branch and Congress over who controls foreign policy and government spending. The administration's secret workaround would soon come crashing down. The secret operation began in 1985, with Israel acting as a middleman to ship U.S. missiles to Iran. The hope: Iran would use its influence to free American hostages in Lebanon. After the first shipment, one hostage was released, encouraging the White House to continue. More arms shipments followed, but the results were mixed. Some hostages were freed, but others were taken. The U.S. found itself trapped in a cycle: more weapons, more hostages, and ever blurrier ethical lines. By late 1986, the operation had become a direct exchange: missiles for hostages. The U.S. was rearming a regime it publicly condemned, all for uncertain gains. The humanitarian goal was lost in a web of secret deals and illegal actions. The administration's gamble was unraveling. The operation's secrecy couldn't last. The world was about to find out, and the fallout would be explosive. The second, even more illegal part of the plan was this: diverting profits from the Iran arms sales to secretly fund the Contras in Nicaragua, despite a direct ban from Congress. This was a bold and dangerous move, one that would have enormous consequences for the Reagan administration. To pull it off, Oliver North set up a complex network of secret Swiss bank accounts and front companies, all designed to move the money without leaving a trace. These covert channels made it nearly impossible for outsiders to follow the trail. Profits from the arms deals were funneled through this hidden network to buy weapons and supplies for the Contras, keeping their war alive despite Congress's explicit ban on U.S. support. The operation was both elaborate and risky. This off-the-books operation let the administration wage a secret war, hidden from Congress and the public. It was a shadow campaign, run from the highest levels of government. Millions of dollars flowed through this shadow network, crossing borders and bank accounts in total secrecy. North and his team saw it as a clever solution to a political problem, but in reality, it was a crime that would soon come to light. The scheme directly challenged the constitutional power of Congress to control government spending, undermining the very foundation of American democracy. The secret money trail was bound to be discovered eventually, as investigators and journalists began to dig deeper. When it was, the consequences would shake the White House to its core, sending shockwaves through the entire government. The cover-up was about to collapse as evidence mounted and panic spread among those involved. The Iran-Contra Affair was about to explode into public view, forever changing the way Americans saw their government. The secret unraveled in November 1986 when a Lebanese magazine exposed the U.S. arms sales to Iran. The story spread worldwide, and the Reagan administration's denials quickly fell apart. Evidence from Iran and relentless media coverage forced officials to admit the truth. Then a memo found in Oliver North's files revealed the diversion of funds to the Contras. Attorney General Edwin Meese announced the discovery, merging two scandals into one: Iran-Contra. The revelation that the U.S. had armed an enemy and illegally funded a proxy war caused a political firestorm. President Reagan addressed the nation, admitting arms had been sold, but denying knowledge of the money diversion. Public trust in the presidency was shattered. Congress launched a full-scale investigation. The secret was out. The nation demanded answers. The reckoning had begun. In 1987, Congress launched highly publicized, televised hearings that pulled back the curtain on the secret Iran-Contra operation, captivating the nation and exposing the depth of the scandal. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, dressed in his Marine uniform, became a central figure, both a hero to some and a villain to others. As he passionately defended his actions before millions of viewers, his testimony becoming iconic. A special prosecutor was appointed, and several top officials faced indictments for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and lying to Congress, signaling that the investigation would reach the highest levels of government. North and National Security Advisor John Poindexter were both convicted in court, but their convictions were later overturned on legal technicalities, leaving many feeling justice was incomplete. Across the country, Americans watched in frustration as legal loopholes and appeals allowed key players to escape lasting punishment, fueling public cynicism. In 1992, President George H.W. Bush issued pardons for 6 men involved in the affair, including former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger, just days before Weinberger was set to stand trial. Bush argued it was time for the nation to move on, but critics denounced the pardons as a final cover-up, sparking heated debate and outrage. The full truth of Iran-Contra was never fully aired in court, and many details remained hidden from the public record. The scandal left behind a legacy of mistrust, unanswered questions, and a sense that accountability had slipped away. It revealed how easily power can be abused, and how elusive true accountability can be, even in a democracy. The legal aftermath was as controversial and divisive as the affair itself, with debates raging in the media and among the public. Iran-Contra's shadow lingered over American politics for years, shaping debates about government secrecy and executive power. The lessons of Iran-Contra would not be forgotten, serving as a cautionary tale for future generations. The Iran-Contra affair stands as a warning about the dangers of unchecked executive power. It revealed how easily laws can be bypassed when officials believe their mission justifies any means. The scandal damaged public trust and exposed the fragility of democratic oversight. It forced a national conversation about transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. Congress strengthened its oversight of covert operations, but the temptation for secrecy remains. Iran-Contra's legacy is a reminder. Democracy depends on open government and holding leaders accountable. The story is as relevant today as ever. Secret wars and unchecked power threaten democracy's foundations. The Iran-Contra affair is a lesson we can't afford to forget. For more real stories that shaped history, subscribe to our channel.